Welcome. I think it's time to get started. What time is it? 11:15. Great, you're in charge of the time now, okay? You're my guy. Hey, Alan. Alan, little focus up here now. Okay, thank you. So, welcome to the third and final round of Speaker Idol 2017. Yay, yay. Preliminary round. We can't call it a semifinal. It's not quite a quarterfinal, so preliminary rounds. Heat. So a few housekeeping things. Please silence all your cell phones, but do feel free to tweet about us as much as you want. Explore everything PAS has to offer. If you haven't seen this slide yet already, I don't know what you've been doing, but yes, PAS has a lot to offer. Session evaluations. I can't stress this enough. I did it yesterday. I'll do it again right now. The evaluations, the feedback that you give us allow us to make events better. So evaluations are not always just for what's wrong. It's also a great way to tell us what we've done right. So for example, if you've enjoyed the keynotes, please give us that feedback. Or this event. And this event. All right. So how this works, 12 contestants, 3 preliminary rounds. We've already done 2. This is the last of the 3 preliminary rounds. We will get a winner from each round, and then one of the runners-up will also be selected to round out the slate for the finals, which happen, I want to say, they start at 3:30. Is that right? Yay. 3:15? Something like that. See, Tim knows. All right. So 3:30. The overall winner is chosen live. What that means is we do it here. We don't come back to you and write a blog post on Monday and say who won. The judges today will step outside. They will do it for the preliminary round. They will do it for the final as well. They will go outside, they will deliberate, and they will come back with one name for a winner. All right, here's the prize for Speaker Idol. First is bragging rights, of course. You get fame, no fortune, but you do get a sash. Okay, hold up the sash. Karen will demonstrate the sashes. There is a finalist sash, and I'm hoping all the speakers wear their finalist sash when they show up. And there's also a champion one, right? What does it say, winner? It says a winner. I know, it doesn't get much better than that, or does it? Because the winner also gets a guaranteed speaking slot next year, next summit, which is November 6th through 9th, right here in sunny Seattle. Hey, you're on your phone. I don't know what you're laughing at. All right, that's cool. So rules. We have a handful of rules, and by handful I mean 2. What are they? One is the time. So you get 5 minutes to speak. However, we will not cut you off. So where are my speakers today? 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. So I'll address this side of the audience. All right. So you get 5 minutes to speak. We don't manage your time. If you go over, you go over. But we're expecting that whatever you've done, we'll finish within those 5 minutes. Okay? Actually, I do have 3 rules. The next rule is speaking. When you come and approach the podium and you get set up, the clock is going to start when you start your presentation. But we don't know how that really happens, right? So if you just are up here talking, we might think that's the start. So basically, remain silent until you really want to deliver your presentation. You will want to check your mic, however you want to do that. But the easy way to let us know you're starting is you could say, let's get started. All right? Make sense so far? The third rule is, while they judge you from there, I will just sit there silently watching you from the side. Okay? Those are the only rules we have. Any questions, comments, concerns? So you've already started talking. So I could not have been more clear. This microphone here. Okay. Those are the rules. Let's see, judges. Where's the handheld microphone? Who has it? Really? Joey has it. I thought Karen did. Hand it over. Karen? Karen will start us off. Let's have the judges introduce themselves and give us a fun fact about yourself.
Hi, I'm Karen. I'm Data Chick on Twitter. I'm sorry. And
Is that the fun fact?
that's my fun fact.
Okay.
I tweet a lot. And I'm the most judgy person here.
I'm Joey, and apparently yesterday during my presentation I said, that looks like a bunch of that's a bunch of gibberish that doesn't look like an error, so I know it was successful.
You never get to troubleshoot one of my systems, like, ever. Mark Sims, Azure Engineering, and I help people make better choices the second time.
Hi, I'm Kendra Little, and I help people make bad choices the first time.
Wow, all right.
Alan Hurt, and apparently I'm the only person who can get HA working on Linux.
Wow, yay!
I'm just repeating a tweet that was sent this morning, so there's, yeah, all right, so there are two of us.
Once is lucky, twice is good. Okay, so contestants. I have the list here. We will get started, I think, now. You guys all ready? All right. So first up, Daniel D'Souza. He is a business intelligence specialist at a large pizza chain. Is that the official name of the business? Good, see, he just shook his head. He's currently working on a data compliance project between multi-countries and continents using Azure Regions, Always Encrypted, and Azure Key Vault. Those are things near and dear to my heart. He is a data lover. I like that, son, data lover. Been working with data since 1994, DBase 3+, all the SQL servers, and he's currently using SQL 2016 SP1. He's a soccer fanatic. He loves his Brazilian soccer, and who doesn't really? Mainly Corinthians, and a father of two, a boy and a girl. Which one's older? Good man. Okay. You think you're ready? I will step to the side and just watch you from here.
Let's get started. So today I'm going to be talking about Always Encrypted. What does Always Encrypted mean? And how does it work? Always Encrypted was a feature introduced in SQL 2016. So how many of you are already using SQL 2016? Oh, that's a good number. So how many of you are already using Always Encrypted? 1, 2, 3. Cool. So Always Encrypted, in Always Encrypted, the client application, it must use an Always Encrypted enable driver. It requires the .NET Framework 4.6. The data is encrypted at rest, in motion, as well as in memory. So not like TDE, which encrypts the whole database. With Always Encrypted, you can encrypt one or many columns in your table. And you only have plain text within the application. So let's imagine a politician that's not so honest. He has a Secret Santa every year. But this year is a special one because he passed a bill that will benefit a big oil company and will make him $200 million. Yes, $200 million. So imagine you are responsible for $200 million worth of data in your company. Where would you keep it? So then he thought, should I keep all that money in my house? Does your company keep all the data in text file, spreadsheets? I don't think so. Then he thought, oh, I'll keep it in the bank, which is more secure. The same way, let's keep the data in the database, which is much more secure. So he goes to the bank. He's greeted by the bank manager. The bank manager says, oh, hello, sir. How can I help you today? Oh, hi, I need... Then something clicks, and he starts thinking, Do I really want to keep all that money in a bank account where everyone can see what happens? Everyone see the money coming in and the money coming out. So do you want to keep your PAI data without encryption? Imagine storing this politician's finance in a database without encryption. Or even imagine a hospital keeping the HIV results without encryption. That would be a big no-no. So then he thought, I'm going to put it in a safe box, because I'll be the only one who's going to be able to see it, who have access to it. With Always Encrypted, the client application is the only one that has the keys. So he's the only one that will be doing the encryption and the decryption of the data using a .NET driver. On top of that, he knows that the safe box will be within a vault. So the bank employees, they know that's a vault. They know that's the safe boxes. Some of them can see the safe boxes, but they can only imagine what's in those safe boxes. In the same way, we can say that the DBA, he can see your tables. He can see your columns. But if he doesn't have access to the column master key, which creates encryption, he can only imagine what's in there. So the access to the vault and the safe box, the bank's security manager, he's the only one that can open the vault. And you are the only one that can open the safe box. In the same way, the client application is the only one that has access to the column master key, which in this case is the vault, and the column encryption key, which is your safe box. And you are the only one who knows what's in there. And then I think, what happens if the bank gets robbed? There will be no insurance, because who knows how much you have in there? He knows what you have in there. In summary, I can say that Always Encrypted is even better than a bank, because the thieves, they can steal the safe box. But the encrypted data cannot be decrypted if the person who steals it doesn't have the column master key. Thank you.
Thank you. So, judges, and I think we start with Alan.
So good job. You were under time, if you were curious. So you did a column response at the beginning twice. The first one you didn't give the response of how many people responded. The second one you counted. Just something you always have to remember, because, like, for example, past things were recorded. Yep. So if you ask a question, it's like, oh, that's a good number. People at home were like, okay. Because they want to see, even people at home or listening to it on a podcast or want to relate to. I noticed you moving sort of a little back and forth a lot like this. You had good sort of hand movement, but sometimes just center yourself. I like the fact that you were telling a story and used a lot of pictures, but sometimes there were certain points in there I wish you had said or flipped around and shown me some SQL Server stuff, or had a picture or something that was just more than the story.
I had in that, but it wouldn't fit on the 5
No, totally get it. I'm just saying. I think that's one way of telling a story, but I think that especially here where you're saying, like, Always Encrypted, people don't know what it looks like. Even just like a screenshot or something somewhere would have been a good thing. I'm not saying do a demo, because you're very brave if you do a demo in 5 minutes, but overall, pretty good job.
Thank you so much for speaking. I really enjoyed it. At the beginning, I loved your eye contact with the audience. You were automatically looking around, and you got very soon into the presentation a big smile that just was like immediately engaging. You were a little more reticent to look at us in the front row. You were looking behind us a lot, and I totally know why you wouldn't want to look at us. Like, really, I get it. But you've got to kind of sometimes force it a little bit. You don't want to look at those horrible people in the front, but it does help, especially if they're the ones judging you. You've got to kind of pretend to like us. So, but it was great. I'm just saying you could take it up a level with that. I also would like in the presentation, like, are are there any downsides to this, some performance issues, things I might not be able to do? I don't think you have to explain them all, but maybe even just a reference to a books online entry where I could learn a bit more, both the good, and the bad. So I don't want to, explode your time, but some more balance would make it stronger as well. I loved the story. I loved, the smile and the way you told it as well.
So the challenge with metaphor is if you don't link the metaphor to the reality, and I didn't get exactly where you were going until the end of the story, which is, as an application, how do you protect your data from the database and those nasty DBAs and administrators? So I might have started with that setup and used it to frame the story, because I knew where you were going, but that's because I already knew what it was. As well as even just as Kendra, just tee up things like, hey, you're now responsible for managing keys. What happens if you lose them?
Just raise the question.
Yeah, just be aware that, hey, if you're going to go down this road, the eggs are now in your basket, so you had better watch that basket very carefully.
Yeah, I agree with what everyone said. I think overall the session was good. I like the concept. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more technical content, even just like a high-level architecture of how Always Encrypted works, from key storage, where the master key lives, where it lives in the app. Just a picture on the first slide. You're rocking a little bit, and your hand motions were relatively small, as I'm making a small hand motion. It's odd when you're presenting in a large room, because you have to do big hand motions for them to have impact, and it feels very unnatural when you're speaking to do that. But when in a large room, it's kind of what you have to do.
Everyone read all my notes. First of all, kudos for putting DBase 3 on your bio. Anyone here have to work with a PC database maybe first? Do you put that on your LinkedIn and resume? No. No, it's good. So it's good. It shows the length of experience that you have. Everyone had covered everything I had. One of the things is you were really great about attributing the images you used. So attribution's important so that you don't get accused of plagiarism, of claiming that work as your own. But there's also another point of maybe some of those images you weren't free to use because of licensing, which is the copyright issue. So, yeah.
And I had to change a few pictures.
Yeah. Okay, good. Because I wasn't going to ask you, because you don't always put on your slide used with permission, or this is what is it, copyright free or whatever, or public domain or something. So that's good to know. I just wanted to point that out. I'm with Joey and the others here that I loved your analogy, but I would have liked like the overall Always Encrypted sort of architecture. There's lots of images of that. And you say, this is the bank manager, this is the vault, right? And that would have been the whole tie-in together. And when I first saw your topic, because I've presented on Always Encrypted, I'm like, holy crap, how is he going to cover this in 5 minutes? So you did a great job. You stayed high level. Yeah. But we need a little bit more detail.
I had the structured picture.
Yeah.
When I tried to do the training,
Yeah.
I couldn't fit in the 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yep. That's the hard part about 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Daniel. So next to the stage, we have Joseph Barth. Joseph. Joe has no bio for me to read, so I'm going to make things up about him while he gets set up. Joe apparently likes drones. I'm not sure if he has an FAA license for that or if it's needed. Do you need help, sir? He doesn't want to say a word.
Can I do a quick thing?
What do you need?
I want to talk to the audience.
No.
You going to let me? Yeah, I'm
No.
going to do it anyway.
I won't
'cause
allow it.
I was just trying to be polite. So we had a hard time recruiting people to be contestants that were female.
There were no submissions.
There were no submissions. So I'm trying to talk about this. And that makes me really sad. And I know I have a whole lightning talk on why women don't submit to speak. But we really would like to see a lot of participation from the whole PASS community. So, If you know people who haven't spoken at PASS, you should encourage them to apply. We'd rather have the problem of hundreds of submissions, right? So, and we're fun with this, right? Plus there's sashes.
Plus their sashes, yes.
Next year, crowns.
Sir, you will need that microphone.
Yeah. Yeah. They did suggest tiara. You know what? The tiaras are cheaper than the sashes.
I believe Mr. Barth of the white space page here, slide, with no information, he's the mystery man. I believe he is ready to go. Tim's got you.
Hello. My name is Joe Barth. I'm a senior consultant at Nudesic, a leader in innovation and the use of bleeding edge of technologies. Today, I'm going to present my IoT innovation challenge, Guardian Drone Angel. 9 months ago, my company decided to put out an IoT innovation challenge. For 9 months, I've been working on hacking a drone. So easily put, I took three things together. I wanted to find and hack a drone. I Google searched. There's this guy named Mark Tor that hacked an AR drone. And so I took what he did, and I was like, well, I can port it to a Raspberry Pi. So what I did was I ported it to a Raspberry Pi using Node.js code. And then on the Raspberry Pi, I'm continually grabbing records from an Azure SQL DB. That was hard to do. It was not easy, because if you ever have controlled a drone, you actually take over the Wi-Fi, and the toughest part was trying to get internet to the Raspberry Pi. So I did that with a GSM shield that gives me data through a SIM card. Once I got that, the skies were the limit. It was amazing. So let me go ahead and show you. If we can get this up. This is my phone. I have a Cortana channel that's connected to an Azure SQL bot, and I'm going to send it a command. It's thinking. Hopefully it connects. My internet is not that great. It's starting to connect to the Azure SQL bot. Yes. Woohoo! Come on, everybody. Well, hopefully. Oh, wait, it's not done yet. It's not making it, but dun 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 dun, danger zone. Dun 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 dun. Okay, land. Woo! So we can get back to the presentation here. Okay, so what just happened right there, if it would have worked properly, the Guardian Drone Angel put you into the danger zone and then pulled you back autonomously. What we did was we had a Cortana channel connected to Azure SQL bot, called an Azure function, serverless architecture, and triggered an insert into Azure SQL DB. The Raspberry Pi is continually looking for commands, commanding the drone to fly up and fly down. IoT Hub is working in the background, sending telemetry data to a streaming analytics as well as a Power BI. Now that we have that ability, we can even do more. As we all know now, Azure SQL DB, you can run the predict model on it. So that's what I've done. I've generated thousands of drones, thousands and millions of data points, and I've put it into a analytics platform framework. This is what the future of AI will be. So we would take maybe smart meter data and push it into a data architecture, an ecosystem, that we can control other IoT devices. We'll control that through serviceless architecture with Azure Functions. Thank you for letting me speak today.
Thank you, sir. Judges, I think we start with Karen.
Yep. So, great job attempting to do something very difficult. A live hardware demo, along with talking about sort of new and modern architecture, always hard to do, so very much kudos for that. So you did a great recovery on your demo not going as planned. You didn't wait forever, you didn't panic, and you made it look like you had a plan for when it went wrong. I don't know if that's something you decided at the end, but you had a great recovery, and that's what's important, to make it just look smooth when things go wrong. There was a little bit of mic issue going on, and I suspect it was your phone being near the mic. Okay. And I've run into that before when I used to use my phone to control, like as a clicker, to control my thing. So it's just something to be aware of, that like the cell signal usually is what's interfering with it. It wasn't a terribly bad problem, but it's probably something just to be aware of. And you could probably, I know you had to have your phone for that, so it might be a good thing to let the AV people know that you've got something different, and they might have advice for it or something like that. But I really enjoyed what you did. You covered a lot of stuff in a short period of time.
I like the fact that you had slides that showed the technical architecture. I thought that was pretty cool. I know you had a video because I saw it, so you should have had the video as backup. The last high-level architecture slide was the fonts. I could see the logos, and I know what the logos mean because I live in the Azure portal, I think. But your fonts are way too small. I can't read them from here. Like, I have really... No, I mean, that's just font. Like, I have really good vision, and I can read them, but barely, and I'm in the front row. Yeah.
So thanks for the insane act of bravery of taking a phone, the internet, and Azure, and a flying thing into a demo. That's a lot of combinations. Just calm down. You looked a little nervous at the beginning. It's normal. It's natural. It's, we're judgy people. We're judging you. It's hard to be calm and collected. Just. I like that part that he was nervous. You are the judgiest one up here, so. Great recovery on filling in for the dead space. When you have a demo with a lot of kind of loosely connected moving parts, especially IoT demos, definitely want to have everything video recorded in advance, because there are at least 9 different moving parts, and any one of them is susceptible to conference Wi-Fi. And for the generally doing demos off of a phone, even emulated, they're just hard to display. So even being able to do like Cortana via laptop or some other form of simulated interface, it's just a little easier to connect with the audience. And just one little note on the physical architectures. Put in all the moving parts if you're going to talk about them. Like I said, ASA wasn't clearly shown in the line from Event Hub into SQL. And don't leave a lot of white space. Don't go for subtlety in architecture diagrams. Just be very blunt about them. And the other flip is this particular slide shows cold path, and you spent the whole presentation talking about hot path. So there's going to be some cognitive dissonance there. So just watch out for that.
Thank you so much for speaking, and thank you for the wackiness of that. That was really something. I loved the song, by the way. Things I would work on if I was you. I felt the nerves from the beginning and throughout. You were a little bit breathless, and with the mic that close to you, I felt nervous because I felt like you were nervous. And then there were a couple of times where there were silences while you were trying to get things to work. And then again, when you did feel the failure well, but then you came back up and you're getting the presentation back and there was another silence. And that makes the feeling of nervousness, the audience becomes kind of worried for you. And it's just distracting to the audience. And I know this is tough. So the ways I would work on this, because as a speaker, I still get like, is this going to work? Like I feel that. the more you speak, the better it gets. So please keep speaking, just keep speaking. You get smoother and smoother. It becomes more natural to just have a way to fill the gap while you're bringing the thing up, while you're doing something to keep the audience comfortable. And then just as much as you can practice those transitions, you'll get better and better at it. So it's really just doing it more and more and making it not so weird for you, so you can just get the audience not thinking about whether you're nervous, but just enjoying the show.
Pretty much they've said everything. Just a couple things I'd add. I did notice the dead air stuff. It was a couple times. Now, one of the things that I noticed was when you finally got to the architecture slide, I kind of understood the link, because you mentioned, for example, the Azure SQL DB early on, but I didn't quite understand the link between the Raspberry Pi and Azure SQL DB. So sort of to Kendra's point, in those moments when you see that you're doing stuff, or you're waiting for stuff to happen, you're like, this is why I'm doing this, so that, or show that architecture slide a little earlier, and then say, look, it's all working, this is the magic happening. You almost did like reverse of, let me show you the demo, and then I'll explain to you how it works, right? And that's a style choice. That's totally a style choice. But I was a little unsure where SQL DB fit in the entire picture until you did your slide. It's not a bad thing, it's just, again, I was kind of like, okay, I'm not seeing where a database comes in here, right? I did appreciate the Top Gun reference that you had in there. You know, there were a couple times you were just looking, like when you brought this slide up, you were looking at the slide, not at the audience. Would have been a little better even if you just looked at your laptop, which is in front of you, because it's at least sort of forward-facing. Look, we all do this stuff too still sometimes, so we're not immune from this. So I don't want to be sanctimonious about it. Just, again, as Kendra said, just keep speaking, keep practicing it, and it'll definitely improve.
Okay, thank you.
Do they accept bribes?
Do the judges accept bribes? That is an interesting question. I will tell you, I accept bacon, if that helps. Oh, is it? Oh, sorry. I'll let the pro do it. All right. We got 2 down, 2 left. Who's up next? Jeremy Fry. Welcome, Jeremy. Jeremy has over 9 years' experience in the SQL space as a business intelligence architect with a background in database administration. Here comes your microphone, sir. Has spoken at many SQL Saturdays throughout the country, as well as local and virtual SQL user groups. Is a workout fanatic who often spends time trying to bridge the gap between keyboard strokes and workout reps. So like you just bust out 10 push-ups every time you can. See, he just smiled, right? He's good, all right, he knows. I think he's just about ready to get started. Yeah, we'll switch it over, and I will just sit here and watch you. Look at that. The stage is yours.
Good morning and welcome to using non-clustered column store indexes for real-time data analytics. As we know, technology is always evolving. It does not remain stagnant. In the 19th century, we used to use cast iron stoves in order to cook food. The issue with a cast iron stove is preparation. What we did not have in this day and age was heating elements such as gas and electric in order to efficiently heat the top of the stove to cook food efficiently. So we had to use wood or coal, which took a long time for preparation. Fast forward to today's day and age, we use microwaves. We have pre-processed food, boxed food, packaged food. We want things here and now. We want things instantaneously. Why should our data be any different? We used to go from watching a ball game and the next day getting our daily newspaper, turning to the sports section, looking at all the statistics and analytics of box scores. However, today, we can pull up on our smartphones or tablets, and we can utilize fantasy apps, ESPN, et cetera, in order to get real-time statistics and analytics at this point in time. That's what we're here to talk about today. What in SQL Server will give us the opportunity and ability to establish real-time analytics? In order to get to that point, how many, by show of hands, utilize any kind of analytics queries such as what's on the screen? It's a majority of the room, about 3/4 of the room. Nothing wrong with this query, but two things to point out here. There's no where clause in order to filter this data, and we're only utilizing 4 columns of this table. This is about a 13 million row table, which we're doing averages of taxi data. The problem here is we probably have reports that are utilized in these types of queries, or you've programmed these kinds of queries. As your table begins to grow vertically, you start to performance degrade in these types of queries over time. So you might engage with a BI team that might build some sort of complicated data warehouse. For those of you who have built data warehouse technologies, this might look familiar to you. For the rest of you who have not, this might look like a bunch of stuff. So how do we get back to the scenario of going directly on from an OLTP situation, the presentation layer of our analytics query, and getting that data a lot faster? This would be more of your microwave technology if we can efficiently process that data and get it the results quicker. The entire components of the data warehouse are essentially what would be our cast iron approach. Simply put, column store index technology might be able to help you. It simply uses a vertipack technology, which more simplistically put is which Dr. Voodoo compression, along with putting it into memory, so the optimizer has had to have synced it. Together, these two things reduce disk reads, which help us with performance. So let's look at a column store index, but before we get to that, let's actually look at the way that a table is stored on disk. You have multiple columns, multiple rows that are stored across multiple data pages. In order to run that analytics query against this type of an OLTP type of a row store table, you have to push all of that into memory to then select out the data that you need from it. So you're going to get a ton of reads, which degrades performance. Column store index technology stored a little different. The columns you specify in the column store index, however, are basically put in column segments, and there's a data page per column. They are then compressed and then put into a column store, which is pushed into memory. So you'll get less reads. Here is our non-clustered column store index. For sake of time, I've already created this. I am specifying the 4 columns in our analytics query from earlier. There are some additional filtering and functionality with non-clustered column store indexes that, if given the opportunity of providing a full session, I will go into details about that. So everybody should be on the edge of their seats because you've written these types of queries and you utilize these to see what the anticipation of the results are, right? People don't seem too enthusiastic. But nice, thank you. So what we've went from is we've ran that query against the 13 million row table with no non-cluster column store index, and then we've ran it again with the non-cluster column store index. We've significantly cut down on reads, CPU time, and total duration. If we do the math on this, we got about over 11 times performance optimization with that. So if you have a traditional data warehouse, where do you go from here? Do not throw that down the drain. You still have the opportunity to perform data integrity, bring in multiple data sources, et cetera. But column store indexes are your microwave technology and a secondary option for you to perform data analytics in more real time. Thank you.
Well done. Okay, judges, we start with Alan.
First of all, really great job. A nice pacing. I thought that you seemed pretty relaxed up there. You had good body motion and hand movement. The only thing that I would say is like when you were sort of showing the results, you kind of pointed this side. Remember that there's a whole other side of the room. And again, I do that sometimes too. I'm not infallible. But like yesterday in my talk, especially in big rooms, like if you're pointing something out specifically on the slide, if you can't walk over to the other side, say, hey, the thing that I just showed down here, just so they get that you're addressing it, but that's not a huge deal. I like how you sort of, because you didn't do a live demo, you said, for the sake of time, I've done this. You sort of, so you qualified all that stuff. But overall, really great job. Clearly a Pittsburgh Pirates fan. Yeah, I'm a Phillies fan, but hey, you know, it is what it is. Yeah.
What sport are we talking about?
Sports ball. We're just talking about sports ball. The one thing, though, I will say around that is that here it's fine. Obviously, we're in America, and we just had the World Series, so all good, and you showed baseball examples, picked up on that. Internationally, or for a bigger audience, sometimes that stuff doesn't always translate. And I've given that feedback in past. And I'm a baseball fan, so I get it, but maybe sometimes pick up something that's a little more universal, or just say, like, you know, this is baseball, could be soccer or football or cricket or whatever, another version of football, not our American version of football, just so that if it's a bigger audience that it's not just the U.S., they can relate to it too. So, but overall, really great job.
Thank you for speaking. You have great, what I call speaker mechanics. Great eye contact, great transition between the slides. Like the slides are moving and you know it without glancing down even. And that just, I feel so comfortable when that's happening. You know, I'm just like, oh, I'm here for the ride. Really appreciate that. With your topic, and part of this is because of Microsoft marketing, you've got to be kind of careful when you use the word memory, just because when Column Store first came out, it was all advertised as like the in-memory engine or whatever. So at times during your talk, I was a little like, oh, are we going to talk about in-memory OLTP and Column Store, or is this just, I was like, not. So you've got to be a little careful and say, and when I say memory, I'm not talking about that hackathon stuff. We're talking pure Column Store here, just maybe making it a little more clear. Also, it sounded a little too much like unicorns and kittens. Like, if I put this Column Store index on my busy OLTP table, like, could updates and deletes in it, is there any downsides? Maybe you don't have to cover them all. I don't want to expand your time too much, but maybe giving me a resource to where I can learn about it, how to choose if this is the right thing for me. But very, very strong. Enjoyed it very much.
So great speaker mechanics. Just to echo the introducing a feature and saying it's awesome without a little bit of balance. Folks could have some production learning moments that way.
You helped them get it right the second time.
Yes, don't call me for those. So just always make sure to have a kind of a balance, like even just the 30 seconds. Here's just a little things to watch out for, and here are the areas where it doesn't work. And love the metaphors all the way through. Just some of the, and again, we're very pedantic, and I think most folks in the judgy section know very deeply how Column Store works. Just there's a fine line between kind of the metaphor and then being precise about how something is implemented. And in a kind of a high-level talk, veer towards being accurate but not precise, because there's always that one nitpicker in the audience who I'll now turn the mic over to.
Yeah, Column Store isn't stored in data pages. Sort of. It's stored in lobs. It's eventually stored in pages. Your speaker mechanics were fantastic. You did an excellent delivery. My only real complaint, I like the way you told the story, but you didn't really tell me the story of why you were using non-clustered for hybrid analytics, and I know why you are, but I also have been working with Column Store like since I can't remember when, because I gave like an 8-hour Column Store presentation with the other judgy person.
Yeah. So, yeah, everyone said most of what I wanted to say, but your slide mechanics as well were really great. Those animations, I mean, I always want to do those in all of my presentations, and you just sometimes run out of time, but for here, we used animations in our Column Store stuff because it really helps. So I appreciate the use of those, and they weren't just there to make things move on the slide, but actually to help explain it. I thought you had a great sense of humor. I also really admired your tone, and so the speaker tone you had, good intonation, you were explaining, you were confident, but not, so I felt like you really knew what you were talking about, so either you were faking that really well, or, but you didn't sound like you were the smartest person in the room, that you were trying to be the smartest person in the room either. I think that you picked as hard as it is to explain column store and have animations and have analogies and real use cases for it, I think you were bang on for the level. It wasn't too high level, it wasn't too detailed. You had queries up there, but you didn't read them to us, and that was all great. The only other thing I'd say is, your big sort of important slide at the end that had the performance increases probably could be formatted differently to really show those numbers. I mean, they were kind of in a sentence form, and maybe I would lean toward more of a table form, but that's because I'm a data person. But anything that really highlights that, so I don't have to read all this stuff, because that is the real payoff for your presentation, right? But thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jeremy. Last, and certainly last, Simon Whiteley. Simon also has a blank bio page for me, so I get to make things up. Simon is from Chicago. He enjoys pizza, pasta, kittens, things like that. Needlepoint, big into needlepoint and unicorns. Simon also hates nulls, if you didn't know that.
Oh, that's bad.
Not a fan of nulls. He got started, he's so experienced, he was started with DBase 2. And he's looking for something. Simon is looking and looking. Oh, I see, and yeah, there it is. Tim. Tim is the MVP of Speaker Idol, by the way. All right, I'm going to step aside and let you get started.
Okay. Hello, my name is Simon Whiteley, and I'm talking about Logic Apps. Now, not something that a lot of people currently use. Anyone use Logic Apps? Hey, not too many of us, only a couple of hands. So, the specific reasons why I use it as a BI person, someone in the analytics space doing lots of things in Azure. Kind of, when you've got an event, you want to do something. It's a really, really common thing. Especially when we're talking about data. We're getting data, we want to process it. We want to kick off a job, we want to do something. Now, taking a bit of a history lesson, a step back, we used to do this with SSIS. And we used to have something that's constantly turned on, polling. Has something changed? Has something changed? It has, do something. No new data, don't do something. And we can control things by having that kind of constant polling. Now, fast forward, and we're talking about things like Data Factory. So we're in the cloud, we're using kind of the new platform as a service options, and Data Factory doesn't really have that rich control flow kind of thing. So you can say, kick off, run my jobs, execute pipelines in a row, but you can't do that, has something changed. You can't trigger something. So essentially, we're missing something in the middle. We've got a missing piece of our jigsaw. Now, I'm sure it's not going to be a big surprise when I say that's going to be Logic Apps. Okay, so Logic Apps is a real lightweight orchestration tool. It's serverless, it's platform as a service, it scales by itself, but it's for this kind of thing. Something's happened, do something. Don't do something. Allows you to do that kind of control flow going through those steps. So it sits in the middle of a ton of different technologies. So you can say, I've received an email, I've got a file in FTP, I've got something on Twitter, I've got something on SharePoint, and then go and interact with those same technologies to take an action once something's happened. So I can say, is my home server still online? If not, I can tweet at my ISP and say, what are you doing? And then send a complaint email, and then log a formal request, and do that every minute until they fix my internet. Or I can do, I've got some new data in my data lake, in my blob storage, I've got a message in the service queue, do something. So I can move away from overnight ETL batch processing and do event-driven data loading. I can constantly be doing stuff. I can be reactive and proactive. So it's going to get dangerous. We're going to go for a live Azure demo, which I know is risky. But like iPhone, I've simplified some steps. So I've already set up the connections. So you're not going to see me fail to type my Twitter password. What we're going to do is say, I've received a tweet. We're going to call AI, we're going to use Cognitive API and say, what kind of language did they use? Were they nice about me? Were they mean to me? And then I'm going to log it into a database so I can go and find the people who were talking, who were not nice to me. Okay, so here we go. If at any point you can't see that well, raise your hand, I'll zoom in. Is everyone okay with that for now? Okay, great. So it's all done through this web UI. You can do it in Visual Studio, but you get the same UI. So it's the same experience in the browser or straight here. So I've chosen the Twitter connector. I'm going to say, I want to do something when a new tweet is posted. And what I want to do is I want to look for hashtag Simon Idle. That's what we're going for. It's going to check every 3 minutes. And for every tweet it finds, it'll execute this little control flow. And that's all I need to do to set that trigger up. That's done. Going to add another action. It's going to tell me my actions. I'm going to use text analytics. That's the Cognitive API. Going down, I want to detect sentiment. So, were they being nice to me? And then you can see I've got all my variables from that tweet. I can see what were they talking about. Down here, I've got my tweet text. And then a final step, I'm going to write it into that database. I'm going to use SQL Server. Again, I've already set my connection up. So I'm going to look for an inserted row. Down here, name of my table is coming up. There we go, tweets. And then it'll give me the different parameters that I had. In a moment when it's thought about it. There we go. So I can go in and I can fill in those different bits of information simply by joining up to those different elements that I had, and that'll write that record into the database. So really, really quickly, going to down here. Whoop. And then I've got my UTC now, so I've got an expression I can add in. I've got my tweet text. I've got my name of the user, so I know who it was. And I've got my score. So by hitting save, that's live. That's deployed and is active and is actually going off finding tweets and recording it. That is all I need to do. It is that easy. Okay, and that is a quick demo, something that's actually finally run. Ooh, getting close on time. So I can show you. There we go. So woo's hashtag Simon Idle. What an amazing demo. Speaker Idol winner, maybe. I've been Simon Whiteley. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. And that is an unusual accent from Chicago.
I know, right?
And we start with Karen.
Yeah. Wow, thank you for doing a demo. Did you cheat? Don't have to answer that.
No.
So, because there's lots of ways to do a demo like that, where you've pre-recorded it, but it's responsive to clicks, and that saves you from a lot of stuff. So don't answer.
So I do have a video in backup in case
Yeah,
that didn't
yeah,
work.
and backup. Yeah. So very brave to do an Azure demo in a conference facility, blah, blah, blah. We all know it. For those of us who've spoken, did you go this morning and check to see if anything had changed in Azure before you did this? Because you actually have to go the morning of.
They actually changed the logo for Cognitive Services today.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's
Yes, good. So wonderful energy. You were easy to dance to. That was great. I did see one deprecated logo in there, which is okay, and I mean the SQL Server one that's no longer used. And it's very hard when you speak because now there's no more logo. You're just supposed to type words.
Yeah, and SSIS doesn't have it.
Yeah, exactly. And then they don't want you to kind of make up a logo either, so that's a tough one. Great setup of your demo. I really like when people explain what we're going to see, then show, and then say that they showed it.
He was being retro. Yeah. I mean, he was showing the older technology. Good job, nice timing. I thought the demo was pretty cool. Don't ask about zooming, just zoom.
Yeah.
Like, always, just zoom.
You do not need our permission for Zoom. I really like the demo. It was very accessible. If someone hadn't seen it before, it was still pretty clear kind of what was going on. For the demo, when you had basically the slide that says, here's the demo, it's usually good to put in actually some context as to here's what's actually going to go on. That way, if someone decides to check their phone, they still know where they are. But yeah, great for taking a fairly sophisticated number of things and making it accessible. As with anything, generally just want to queue up a little bit about, and here's where this technology will break you into jail, so just be aware of it.
Thanks for speaking. I really enjoyed it. I loved your big hand gestures at the beginning. I felt like, I mean, it was, it's not like a natural movement, but like it was good for the big room and it brought me right in and I'm like, okay, we're in for a show. I found myself confused just because I don't know anything about this. I was like, so is this a third-party tool? Is this something that's in Azure? Can I get it in AWS? Like, who makes this? What do I pay for it? Like, I just didn't know. And then as I started seeing the demo, I'm like, okay, this is built into Azure and is part of Azure. But for those of us who are cloud ignorant, maybe a little more context would have helped me. For the demo, I was really impressed. I did wonder if you could pre-fill some of those things so then you could walk us through them with more of the hand gestures instead of having to type it, but I was super impressed. I mean, that's a fine-tuning thing. Great job.
So like Kendra, I work in the cloud, but not on this sort of end of it. So some of this wasn't familiar. Like when you showed Data Factory, I had no idea what that was. You mentioned it. Yeah. So like one thing that I do sometimes, even in talks I give a higher level, if I say something, I'm like, let me give you 20 seconds on what this is, and if you have any other questions, see me after. That's always a good thing to do because you just level set the entire room. I did like your enthusiasm. It was very clear that you were into this. Like, having seen lots of speakers over the years, and you just sometimes get people who are like, you can tell they're just going through the grind, like, ugh, standing up on stage talking, great, yeah. The thing that I did notice when you were doing your demo, when you set the frequency, you set it to 3 minutes. Remember, you're in a 5-minute talk, so there's no way if you were actually going to get live data. So it would have been...
Simon Idol is trending
yes.
on Twitter.
But so you might have just said, again, sort of in the magic, either I've pre-populated or I'm going to make this live and dialed it down. Because, again, just doing the math in my head, I was like, if he's going to poll in another 3 minutes, his talk's already done. Or he was protecting tweets from showing up. Either way. But just... and the only other thing that I also noticed as well that you have to be careful with this is humor. And so I noticed the iPhone joke you kind of tried, the simplified thing. That sometimes works, sometimes doesn't work. And now I don't think a lot of people picked up on it. But you could also annoy people with, so humor is really weird and personal. So some stuff goes, just be very careful with things like that. But again, overall, great job.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Simon. So, judges, be gone. I have things to say about you.
As long as they're nice, Tom, that's fine.
Right, I have things to say about you. The judges are going to deliberate. I'm sorry, before you do leave, point of order. You're going to come back with a winner and the runner-up for this round, and then the wild card winner. That's your mission. Go get it done. Why are you back here? Are you done? Oh. So who was here yesterday for round 2 when we were talking about the judges being judgy versus coachy? How'd you feel today? More coachy? Or were they too judgy? They were too judgy today? Who said that? I think they were the same. I thought they gave a lot of great feedback on everything. To be honest, of course, you've seen me take notes for the past few days here. What I liked, the one thing that they've talked about, but they actually skipped over today, or I only heard them briefly kind of mention was, they did mention one thing about the font, but Karen usually talks about readable text. So what you saw today, was all the text pretty readable? So now, yeah, no? No, the font one was the only time where they said no. So you said besides that? There was one. Okay. Okay, so I wonder why they kind of looked past that maybe a little bit today. Well, maybe they could see it because they're front row. All right. What other feedback do you think they would have or should have included that maybe they didn't? Anything? What did you disagree with that they said? Anything? No? They were perfect today? The judges were good? That's weird.
I think they focused too much on the content and not on the slides. I think some of the slides focused a lot more on, I think in 5 minutes, the focus could be more on the speaker and less on the slides. They're Batman, the slides are Robin.
Okay. So you'd like for the judges to give more feedback about the speaker and less feedback about what's on the slide? Yeah. Okay. So, but isn't the slide part of the presentation? It's like peanut butter and jelly. Wait, that doesn't work if you're not from this country. We're signing sorry. But I mean, to me, I think it's an ensemble, right? They kind of go hand in hand, and the visual presentation that goes with the words. So I think you need to have some feedback on both, but they could focus more on the speaker itself. All right, yes. Yeah. Okay, so
Whenever I go to see a session, I'm looking for someone who can keep my attention and make it palatable. I mean, the technical content obviously has to be reviewed and be vetted, but that's not going to happen.
okay, so the feedback there is that the judges should be focusing more on the speaker because it's the speaker that's going to hold your interest, not necessarily the slides. And in a 5-minute talk, you're not going to get across some major technical point. So that's fair, I think. So question for you then, when you go to choose sessions at Past Summit, you just choose by the speaker no matter what the topic?
Well, I can because I don't know all the speakers, but when I do a survey, my appreciation of the session is based mostly on the speaker. Maybe, I mean, obviously the content matters a lot, but I mean, if the content is interesting and the speaker just puts me to sleep.
Okay, so if the content is interesting but the speaker puts me to sleep, that's what goes into your evaluation of the session itself. Great. Follow-up question for you. Are you the person that writes on the evaluation that the room was too cold? Because the speaker kind of doesn't control that, right? I mean, that's good feedback for the event, and if that's the only way you can get the feedback to the event, then that's where that goes. But as a speaker, when I get, hey, the speaker, the room wasn't configured, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. But you're giving me a low mark for that, and I really didn't set up these chairs. Yeah, bring a jacket.
I specifically look for certain speakers no matter what the subject is.
Okay,
The start.
I do too. Absolutely.
That's what
If Buck Woody's speaking, I walk in the room. I don't care. Yeah, what are you talking about, Buck? This sounds great. Absolutely. Absolutely. They're taking a little extra long today because they have to do some extra work. So instead of having me fill the dead time here for the finals, we're going to have Killer DBA come up and entertain everybody with some songs during the finals. So if you're interested, or if you're going to be here for the finals, if you're interested or not, it's going to happen. So you won't have to just listen to me ramble for whatever eternity it seems like they are out there while you're just listening to me. Something else about the presentations. What I thought was interesting about each one of them was, like you said, you can't get across a real technical point in, say, 5 minutes. But for some of the presentations, I really felt that they were doing a good attempt at basically just describing something. It wasn't that it had to be, here's deep technical knowledge within those 5 minutes, but it was, hey, here's something kind of cool I did, and I'd like to take 5 minutes to talk to you about it. So I kind of like that aspect of the presentations that we saw today. So it looks like, I'm sorry, Judge Dye? He didn't die. He had to go help somebody make a better second choice. So, judges, do we have a verdict? Have you done all of the tasks asked of you? Okay. And so what we need from you is a runner-up from today and a winner from today. Yeah, you know, but I'm still going to say it anyway. I'm going to say it, and then you're going to do it, and I'm going to say what you did. See, that's how this works.
This is teamwork of a
Yes.
certain sort. We actually have two verdicts, both ones you requested.
Thank you.
So today's runner-up is Simon.
Simon.
And our leader of the pack from the final preliminary session is Jeremy.
Jeremy. Jeremy, come get your sash. Now, I'm not going to say that you're going to get bonus points in the final round if you're wearing your sash, but these are judgy people that went out of their way to create these sashes. So
don't think of it as
just
bonus
saying.
points. Think of it as not getting negative ones.
Right. So, and the other task for me, sir. So we had
Yep.
3 runners-up.
Yep.
And you've chosen one of those 3 to participate later.
Yep. And so the winner from the wild card round is Simon.
Simon. Whoa. Whoa, wait a second. Where's the sash for Simon?
It's virtual.
You're eligible for one, but we don't have wild card sashes. Apparently, we did 80% of the project plan. I don't know.
This is agile.
This is agile. We'll work on that for next year. So congratulations. So we will meet back here 3:30 to begin the Speaker Idol Finals, where somebody's going to win a spot in Pass Summit 2018. Thank you.